I do think you are pointing out the challenge we have. We have the longstanding challenge with the sort of definitional problem of what is an agent, what does it mean, and does it even matter if we're calling it, right? At the end of the day, the question is, are you solving a problem, and if so, how are you doing that? But I think we've got this massive hype problem, and actually, I'll let you cue this up because you found these. But you and your studies, you found two of them. They're like this. Oh my gosh, super deep reading. But in a nutshell, they both basically say the same thing, which is, hey, this technology is not really everything that the hype is leading you to believe, at least not today, particularly when it comes to these complex enterprise-focused challenges that we're talking about here. So why don't you cue these up, because they're very similar actually, and we can just chat about what it really means.
Yeah, one interesting study I found was done by Carnegie Mellon recently. They have this kind of faux structure called the agent company, which they use to figure out the performance of agents in conducting business tasks. So they put a lot of work into figuring out what are business tasks, and then being able to look at how each type of agent, how agents will go through those tasks, and then they can plug in all the models that come in and say which models are better at getting actual business tasks done, and from beginning to end. And they're finding that at best, right now, models are getting about 30% of work done when we're talking about setting up some basic manual business tasks and then turning them into and trying to make the model do it. And 30% is the absolute best. This is what Gemini 2.5 Pro is doing, which is a pretty top of the line modern model. As we go down to, say, GPT 4.0, which is also considered a highly functioning LLM, the success rate gets down below 10%. So the models out of the box are still having a lot of problems getting complex work done, or work that requires some sort of actual human judgment done, which makes a lot of sense, frankly, because we know that these models are good at finding individual relationships and doing fuzzy math, but not so great at doing hard-coded structural and mathematic tasks without some additional help or augmentation.
So I appreciated I mean, we had another study last week, I think we talked about, that pointed the same thing out, that when in fact it was the Salesforce study,
right?
That talked about the fact that we are now still struggle with these sort of enterprise use cases. So part of me says, duh, like we understand this. The frustration I have with this particular study, though, is that it's taking, and I know that in part this is OpenAI and Anthropic and Google it's their own fault, because they're trying to put this out there like these generic models and generic agents can somehow solve these very specific problems. And there's really, I mean, in my mind, I mean, maybe we'll get there and we'll talk about super intelligence later, but we're nowhere near that point right now, right? So this sort of isn't a fair use case, because they're not using models or structures that are fine-tuned, and that's a specific term, are tailored,
right?
Are tailored to enterprise use cases where we actually have a structure to execute on this. So on the one hand, I completely agree that anyone who comes in and thinks that we can magically transform and AI is going to solve all your problems and do all this work for you, or believe the hype that we talked about last week of 50, 70, 80% of your jobs are going away because it's all going to be done by AI. It's all complete hogwash right now. Right?
Yes.
even in the best scenario. But at the same time, this idea that I can take a generic technology and apply it to every problem, particularly very complex enterprise type use cases, is flawed at its core, because we obviously have to structure and tune. And if I actually find it very useful to think about AI in terms of a human, and a human that I would hire a job, right? I can't just take a really smart person and stick them into any job, no matter how smart they are. Right. There is a degree of domain expertise, of understanding the fundamentals of how that a business or the sector operates, understanding the terminology, all of this sort of stuff. And so when we talk about crafting an environment for a specific technology, or for a specific vertical or a sector or whatever, that's what's happening. And these studies are looking at this sort of really broad-based approach, and then somehow going, oh, it doesn't work for these use cases. Like, yeah, okay. So